So, over the past months of teaching and talking to women, what surprised you most about what's actually missing in modern dating?
It hasn't been just months of talking with women. It's been years of talking with women, men, and couples because I've been talking with them through the aspect of their physical health and then finding these patterns with their significant other or longing for a significant other, that also play in and impact their physical health. And so I would say that what surprised me most about modern dating would be a few main things. And all of them are why I created Hungry for More. One, the data shows that before the 1960s, over 80% of your relationships, romantic relationships, were found in your local community. And with that being said, in your local community, there was naturally consequences for how you interacted with one another if you cared or didn't care about each other. And there was not this illusion of there's an endless amount of fish in the sea. Next, next, next. I get burned, they get burned, we don't care next. It's everything is their fault. Every man says the woman I was with was crazy, the last woman I was with was crazy. Every woman says the last man I was with was a narcissist. You know what I mean? There actually isn't the same accountability as there used to be previous to the 1960s, where you are meeting people in your community. There's consequences for how you're actually caring or not caring for one another. It's much more intimate. The next one is the ideal that is sold, the lie that's continuously sold of if you just fix yourself, fix him, fix the communication. If you just fix, 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 fix. And so it's this lie of I need to find what's wrong in order to make it right. I've said for many, many years, I can run your labs and I will always find something wrong. And you'll get a dopamine. Oh, it's maybe that. And then you try a new protocol, a new supplement, a new pill. But it's very different to look for what's right and optimize that in such a way that it can also benefit whatever your concern is. And that's how I approached health and that's how I approached relationships. Everybody was attracted to whoever they were attracted to because of something right. There was something there to learn or grow. And granted, some people are a lesson, not a lifetime. But what if we started training our brain and our body instead of chemical highs, but instead to look for the right things? So that way, if somebody is just a chemical high, it feels like corn syrup versus honey. Changing our mindset from finding what's wrong and fixing it to instead finding what's right. And if it's not that, next. As in, like, I'm not going to invest my time and energy into this. I don't need to learn this lesson or have this experience. I get to say, this is not what I would like to experience and move forward. And trust that you're going to attract someone as you do that who meets you at that level. And then the last thing is this ideal that you have to be more. So, there isn't accountability because we're meeting online. There's this illusion of endless efficiency. And then there's this always find what's wrong, fix it, find what's wrong, fix it. And then the last one is this illusion of if you can be more successful, be more beautiful, be more fit, and then someone will love you. And yet we see that there are women who are millionaires and men who are millionaires who are not in successful, healthy, happy romantic relationships. And they have access to being the most successful, the most money, the most beautiful, the most in shape, and they're still not having healthy, pleasurable, successful romantic relationships. And then the other part of that is this. When I was going through dating, I remember praying and praying and praying and asking God for wisdom, just in my own experience and dating journey. And one of the things that came up as a vision for me was the vision of how you see a flower and you pick it, or you see a flower and you water it.
Sure.
And there are those who, as you become more successful, more beautiful, more in shape, more educated, that will see you and they will want to pick you. I've never met anyone like you. You're so amazing. They want to experience you. But what I train your nervous system and mind and body to do in Hungry for More is look for those who pour into you, who want to nurture you, who want to water you, who want to make you multiply and bear fruit and have more. That's a
Mm.
very different thing for us to look for in dating. One is we're trained to look for, I need to be more, and then they'll accept me and love me and connect. And I'm the healthiest, and I'm healthy relationships and healthy mindset, and I've got money, and I'm beautiful, and I'm in shape, and I'm whatever. I'm showing off, whatever, how great I am, and then they'll want me. The other is exactly as I am right now. I know and trust there are people who want to pour into me just like I want to pour into them. And what does that look like? What does that feel
Mm.
like?
Beautiful. Yeah. And the next question ties into something we already discussed at the beginning of our conversation, that at some point you realized that teaching women alone might not solve the problem. So, what made you start thinking that men also need Hungry for More?
It was 2019 to 20. So about 6.5, 7 years ago, I started writing this course. And when I wrote it, I was writing it from the perspective of me looking at patterns so I could find my love and looking at patterns of how women attach and how men attach. And what I was seeing with patients, what I was seeing that was patterns that outside of like, all the things that you should run from, red flags. It's like, I get it. But like, what are we supposed to be doing here? Like, what are we doing? Like, this should be easier, is what I was thinking. And when I had taken and I had like journals on journals, I still have a lot of those journals today from years ago. But when I was looking at over the notes, I remember saying, and this was honestly on my first coffee date with my love, who I'm madly, deeply in love with. But on my first coffee date, I went through what I teach in the dating roadmap, conversation, FaceTime, coffee, and so we made it to coffee date and we were just talking about different things. And I was telling him about it. In my dream world, I would love to make a relationship book for men and women. And it would have like the content and then like a video, and then the content and like a video, but it's for men and women. And I started tearing up when he was responding with what he thought of my ideas. And I got embarrassed tearing up on our first, coffee date. And he reached across the table and put his hand out. His response was so good of how much he saw my vision for men and women. Oh, I'm a therapy now, to have more joy and play and laughter. It's like one of the most healing things you can do for healing your inner child is being in a loving relationship. Because as all your triggers come up of I can't accept nurture. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Here is this person who holds space and is an environment for you to actually heal. It's so powerful. I love, love, love. I love it. But so here I had this, beautiful ideal. If I'm going to do that, I didn't write the book, and and then months and months, months later, I wrote Hungry for More. And when I first wrote Hungry for More, my thought was single women. They would eat this up. They would love it. And then the more and more I was talking with people about it, friends, family members, all of them said almost the exact same thing. What about the men? Essentially, if you offer this just to women, the responsibility of this healthy relationship and all this material and content and tools is on women. So be the women teaching the men still. And I've heard enough times to go, yeah, I really do. That meant a lot more work for me. But also in doing the more work, it is for men and women. And also I added tools in there for couples that I know work really well and I've used with couples before to help restore romance and laughter in relationships with couples, because what happens is they put all this energy and effort into like finally getting a date night, with work schedules and kids and life. And then they sit down and they do a business meeting. How are the kids? What's going on with the lawnmower? Who's going to mow the grass? And it ends up being just like this really frustrating time. And so rekindling that, there's a whole roadmap of rekindling that romance with one another.
Coming back a little bit to dating again, because you often say that the dating industry is built around filtering people instead of equipping them. What do you mean by that, and how does Hungry for More approach this differently?
Yeah, so the dating industry, they're teaching you a filtering of what not to have. And I think there really is some validity to that. I mean, there is something to be said of knowing how to keep yourself safe in the dating environment, certain things. Like if you're going on a date and you met somebody online, you want to know things like, hey, text your friends before you go, meet in a public place, like those kind of things I really understand. But if we're focused on finding red flags, at any given day, you can find red flags in yourself. If we're focused on someone who's the healthiest emotionally, at any given day, you could ask a psychologist to come in and listen to you and your friends talk, and they're going to find things that are not the healthiest habits in communication. And yet you have great friendships. And so if our focus is just avoiding pain, as opposed to having tools that equip you to really have great communication and laughter and play, there's only one of those two that makes, according to neuroscience and all the data and research, a relationship last. It's play, it's laughter, it's It's being able to see outside of the bills and the kids and the stresses going on in the world why we're here. Running a home is like running a business, and being in a long-term relationship is like being in a business. There's bills, there's money in, there's money out, there's energy in, there's energy out, there's maintenance, there's support. And as you look at any business model, teaching about business 101, you know what they say? Remember your why. And yet, what's taught in the dating industry is not even finding a why. It's finding all the things where this is a cost analysis of I'm not going to lose money. I'm not going to lose energy. I'm not going to be hurt. Nobody builds a business that way. You build a business by saying, what do we want to accomplish? What do we want to experience? Knowing that there will be ebb and flow, there will be highs and lows in business. And what is our why? What's our mission? What's our purpose? And Hungry for More was created personally for me. I remember thinking women are the multipliers, which is one of the things I teach. Men are like the seed, the women multiply. What are we doing that's bearing fruit together? What is our why? What's our mission? What's our purpose? What are we building here together? As opposed to what are we avoiding?
And what are the red flags?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if both men and women were actually taught how to show up in dating and relationships, what would dating start to look like differently if everybody would do Hungry for More?
There'd be a lot more laughter and play. There'd be a lot more men who find their purpose and their drive. There'd be a lot more women who rest and giggle and are able to feel like a little girl again in the best, healthiest way of being able to know she's safe and protected and cared for, and that she gets to be the joy and the pleasure and the laughter and the creativity and the wisdom and discernment for him, where he gets to be the protection and the provision and security and safety and proud. There'd be that polarity restored. I personally have a section in Hungry for More that I really am like going back and forth about with the final thing, because enrollment is open right now, but it doesn't actually like fully launch until May. And I'm going back and forth about, because what inspired me years and years ago as far as health and helping people with health, relationships, everything. One of the things that inspired me was a book by Elizabeth Elliot. And she's a Christian woman who has since passed, but she wrote a book for her daughter. And Elizabeth Elliot was married 3 times. Both of her 2 first husbands died. One died as a missionary, one died of cancer, and then she was married again. And she wrote this book for her daughter called Let Me Be a Woman. And the inspiration for that book, or the one of the purposes of that book, is finding who you are as a woman by God's design outside of just, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a whatever. And for years, when I offered events and live speaking events, and I got to speak to relationships, relationship with self, relationship with others, one of the questions I would ask the women in the audience is, who are you? And every single woman said, I'm a wife, or I'm a job, I'm a mother. No, who are you outside of those roles? And every woman would like start crying. And part of the reason why we forget who we are outside of those roles is there since the fall of mankind. We're all familiar with that story of Adam and Eve. And when she ate of the forbidden fruit, but the reason she ate of it isn't emphasized. She ate of it because she was offered a fruit and said, if you eat of this, you'll be more like God. Not more unto God, more like God. And she went to lack and went to void. Imagine if she said, no, let me be what God made me, let me be a woman. And so women here, we are, all these years later in human history, and women are still pursuing that they have to be more instead of being hungry for more. And when I was originally writing Hungry for More, which I know you don't know this, but what I had told one of my friends who's going to do the marketing images, I said, I want an image of a man's hand like on her shoulder and her taking a bite out of the apple. And she's like, really, that'd be so good. And I told her the whole reason why, and returning polarity, and the woman and her strengths and how God's designed her, and the man and his strengths and how God's designed him. And I said, but my fear is people are going to see it and go, ooh, Adam and Eve, this is bad or something. You know what I mean? But like, I thought it'd be so great. But there's a whole section that I'm praying about if I'm going to include it or not, but it's returning people back to their polarity. Women, women are naturally this gifting, and men are gifting, but we've lost what our gifting is and our purpose of what we really are meant to be. And it shows. It's shown in scripture what we're meant to be. It's shown in neuroscience what we're meant to be. It's shown in biochemistry what we are meant to be and how we attach. And instead, what we're all focusing on is, how do I not get hurt? How do I avoid the red flags? what's his attachment style? What's my attachment style? Instead of like, as a man and woman, why do you actually need each other? How do you benefit from having each other? How do you suffer in not having one another? And how do we optimize this and give you tools to do that? And all of that is in Hungry for More. Even if I don't include the whole scriptural backing of the section of it, but all of that is in Hungry for More. And all of that is what my heart's intention was when I was personally dating, is how is there someone who I don't lose myself. Oh, I'm gonna cry. I don't lose myself in this relationship and forget who I am in God. And I did that in my first marriage. I lost and gave up my authority. I lost and gave up who I was by God's design. And if it was no longer I'm Jennifer and the roles and the gifting that I am as a woman, it was I'm so and so's wife, or I'm such and such job, or I'm a mom, or whatever. And when we lose that, we lose our navigation, we lose our voice, we lose our authority, and we do get hurt, even if that person isn't a narcissist, because we've outsourced our authority, our voice, everything, our power.